Welcome, everybody. Episode number 47 of Sports Cards Live. Great to have you here tonight. Before we get started, I'm going to thank the last couple guests that we had. Last Saturday, Chris Carlin from Upper Deck and Name Cardinal from IndigenousRookieCard.com joined me. We had a great chat, great conversation, and there was the announcement of an important initiative that Upper Deck is going to pursue in 2021. So check out that episode. It was awesome. Very special episode. This past Wednesday, I had with me Dustin Cooley from YouTube's The Personal Finance Dad. We had another great conversation. Good guy, big football fan. Check out that episode as well. This coming Wednesday, joining me will be the editor-in-chief of the Basketball Card Fanatic. Adam, also known as the Real 27 guy, will be joining me. Next Saturday, another old school hobbyist and podcaster, John Newman from Sports Card Nation, as well as Hobby Hotline, will be joining me. That will be a lot of fun. John's a great guy. I want to welcome all new viewers tonight. Thank you for joining. We're almost at 1,100 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So thanks to everyone who has subscribed thus far. If you have not, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Greatly appreciate that. Also want to mention this morning, I recorded an episode of the podcast known as Let Me Get That Potograph with Drew Herndon, who is also a host of Hobby Hotline and Rushing the Passer. Should be dropping right about now. It was a lot of fun. Check that out if you have a chance. Later tonight on After Hours, this evening, like later after this show with Eric Norton from Beckett, we are going to have the After Hours program with my buddy Amita Cheria. He will be joining, so check that out. It'll be a fun, relaxed, freestyle type of episode. Should be great. Check it out. As always, guys, your comments and questions throughout the night will be in play, so feel free to ask your questions. Eric's going to be able to address a lot of interesting things. So comments and questions in play as always. Stay tuned till the end of the show for the two new segments that I introduced on the last episode, Card of the Day, as well as the Sports Cards Live 5, which is where we ask 5 questions to each guest and they answer them. Should be fun. All right, guys. Tonight's guest, Eric Norton. He is the host of Beckett Live Presents. He was originally from Texas. He served in the military for 8 years. Went on to Seattle to work for the Mariners. He was managing their game used equipment and memorabilia sales. He's been with Beckett Media now for the past 6 years, the first 4 he was the hockey price guide analyst. Let's bring him out. Where's my mouse? There it is. My man, Eric Norton.
What's up? How are you, Jeremy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Welcome to episode 47, Sports Cards Live, Eric. It's been a long time coming having you on. I'm super happy to have you here tonight. You know what it's like doing this. Yeah. How are you doing tonight, being on the other side?
This is a rarity that I get to sit on the other side and get questioned, but I enjoy it. I welcome it. I love what you're doing. You and I have chatted. You and we chatted yesterday, and we're not best friends, but I feel like we know each other. You know, we're always seem to be in the same places. And I love what you're doing with your show, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, man. I'm happy for you to be a part of it as well. So you know what it's like doing this. You've been doing it for a while now, and we'll get more into that later. But let's jump right in. Let's kick it off with a great question. My question to kick it off with you is, when you were the price guide analyst for Beckett Hockey, and I assume it's the same for other sport price guides as well, how did you keep track of all the cards every month?
I don't know that I did it very well. It's hard to do. The hockey analysts, I have counterparts in other offices that help do that, as all the analysts do. Keep that in mind that there's only 7 analysts at Beckett right now, and that's basically one for each sport, and some of them double up. So we all have counterparts in our other offices that help gather information for us. And basically what happens is every month, every 25 days, we'll run a current market report, and then we'll take a look at that report, and anything that's just outstanding, like way out of whack, we attack those first. And it's a tough job, because especially I'll speak directly to the hockey market. Guys in hockey forums and like hockey Twitter and like they're really on top of their game. So I did a lot of it with a lot of help from guys who emailed me and said, "Hey, take a look at this. This is out of whack," or you should probably look at this year's Young Guns because they're starting to get hot. So that was a lot of help. But to be honest with you, like I said at the top, I don't know that I did it. I didn't do it all by myself, and I just try to do it to the best of my ability.
Fair, man. I appreciate the information. It's one thing I've always kind of wondered, and I've thought to myself before. I mean, the Beckett Price Guide has been a handy tool that collectors have used for decades now. Mm-hmm. And when the advent of the internet, it had to make it more challenging simply because the volume of transactions has just it's sped up so much. There's so many more transactions happening all the time that are easily researchable and we have access to them at our fingertips, really. So I always wondered, how would you keep up with all that? And I'll ask you this question too. There's the stars and the semi-stars that you see at the back of each sports magazine. And I kind of wonder, is there some sort of formula that is applied to the checklist when a new set comes out? In terms of maybe saying, okay, this is a set that fits this price point. So that's our baseline. And then, we know what the superstars are going to be worth. So we're going to kind of price accordingly what the stars and semi-stars and commons will be worth based on these multipliers and a formula that you have. Is that at all how it works? Or do you guys truly wait for the market to report what cards are worth?
It's a little bit of both. So there is a formula. The semi-stars and the unlisted stars and the commons, we call those so respectively 25%er, 20%er, and a 15%er. So that's from unlisted star down to common. And we, like you said, based on the set that came out, we kind of know where things are going to be priced. Like for instance, Peachy Hockey came out last week or late the week before, and we know going in that is going to be at a certain percentage. Off the top of my head, I can't recall what it is, but so then we'll base the whole 600 card checklist off that percentage. Each guy has a player percentage, which helps in pricing. So with a set like O-Pee-Chee, we can price it pretty quickly because it's a pretty much a base set. There's not autographs you really got to look for. You got to look for those patch cards and some of those unannounced parallels and stuff like that. But for the most part, we can say, okay, the set factor for this set is going to be 4, and then that would make your common players, like 35 cents or 75 cents, be 30.75. That would make your semi-stars $40, and then the unlisted stars would be, what was that, 50 cents, $1.25, if that was off the top. I mean, if that's right, I don't know if that's right, but that's how the percentage works. And then everybody else, 30% and above, they're all listed. So 30% all the way up to, like, I think Connor McDavid's player percentage pricing is 200. So he's 200% above the common player. So it runs like that. There's a program that works behind the scenes that does all the math. We set the factors, and then once we do that, we can go back through and look and hand price things that don't match. So, for instance, Young Guns are always popular. The set factor for a Young Gun is usually 30, but that would make your commons 250. Was it 254, 256, and then but a lot of those don't match that because a guy will get hot, so we'll have to go in and flip that out to where it makes sense, and we'll have to hand price it. So if say, I don't know, Mitch Marner had a dip in his season and he's starting to drop, we could actually go back in and drop it, and we do that every 25 days.
So you'd actually drop the Mitch Marner percentage, and that would drop his cards across the whole magazine, all the sets that he's pretty much in that are that type of card, let's say.
Correct. That's correct.
All right, cool. How often, did you just say you do that every 25 days? You guys would go in and review the stuff?
Yeah, just about every 25 days. With that being said, now when a new set comes out, that takes precedence over cards that need the older sets. So new sets are supposed to be priced within 14 days. Like 21, if it takes 21 days to price a new set, that just means that there's not a lot of information out there on it. And you'll find that with with Upper Deck does SPX, but they put a pack of Exquisite in it. One pack card. That's tough. Those are tough to price because there's just not a lot of information out there. And the guys that collect those rookie patch autos and stuff like that, they get mad if it's off. So we would just rather leave that at 0 for the time being, or in A, and we'll go back and find the pricing as it comes. Speaking of which, how is this show not called Two Bald Guys? That's what it should be. I got to wear the hat so we can tell the difference. But so every 25 days we pull a report, and then we price for that next week. And then our FTP day, so the day that we send the file to the printer, is usually the following Thursday after we pull the report, and it's a constant cycle like that. We don't catch everything, but we try our best to catch what we can, the big stuff.
All right. Sounds good. I want to continue that line of questioning. I have a couple specifics that we'll get to. Before we do, let's just say hello to who we have joining us this evening. Ernie Rondo, welcome as usual to yourself, sir. Legion, how are you doing tonight, my man? Welcome to the show. Name in the house. Name, welcome back. Terry, how you doing, man? Terry, welcome to the show. Who knows? Good to see you. Good evening to you. We've got Barry from ComC watching. Barry, greetings to you, Barry. As always, buddy. As always, great to have you on. Barry says that you, Eric, have the greatest voice on radio. So there you go, man.
I love Barry.
There you go. Name says, what up, Eric? Joe, welcome to the show. And we have the card collector who's been a regular viewer lately. Welcome to you, sir. Great to have you back. So, Eric, I want to talk a little bit about the Wayne Gretzky rookie card, because as far as grading goes, and it's funny because you mentioned earlier on already in this episode that we seem to always be at the same place, right? Whether it's the Expo, the National, wherever we've seen each other. I remember one of the first conversations we ever had. I forget who brought you over. It was at the Expo in Toronto. Somebody brought you over to my booth, whether it was Chris Carlin or Billy Celio. Probably Chris Carlin, actually.
No, it was Stephen LaRoche.
Oh, Stephen LaRoche. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Awesome. So Stephen was the Beckett hockey editor at the time. That makes sense. All right. So Stephen brought you over to introduce us, which was really nice of him. And I remember we talked about the book value of the Gretzky rookie, because I think I said to you, I realized, you were introduced to me by Stephen as, this is Eric. He's the new Beckett price guide analyst. And I may have jumped right in with, what's the deal with the Gretzky rookie? It seems to have been sitting at the same book value for years and years. And what does it take to change that? I probably gave you some suggestions. But my question is, what does it take to change the price, the book value, the Beckett book value for a card of that stature? Okay, is it something you can just do sort of flippantly, or does it need more care?
It needs a lot of care. I'll be honest with you. I'm afraid of that card. I am afraid of that card so much so that I don't want, because that card is like the whole hockey market, right? Like if that card's wrong, especially, maybe from 79 forward, if that card's wrong, then everything else is probably wrong. I don't think that I truly ever had a good grasp on it. I know that for our vintage stuff, so anything 80 prior is supposed to be, was it near mint or price wise?
Yeah, we
got so focused on the graded card values for vintage that the raw stuff is almost an afterthought, because we would rather the graded card be right, and then we can adjust the raw. And it's just really, it's a scary card to play with. It means a lot to so many people, and it's a big card to just go out there and throw a price at it. Because I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is right now, but if I went and changed it to 800, 800. That's probably going to be wrong in someone's eyes. So it takes a lot of information and a lot of research to be able to just put that raw card at a certain price. To be honest with you, I think it's low, but I don't want to. I'm not doing the hockey pricing anymore. The guy that I'm training, I said, before we make price changes here, we really have to know what we're doing, because this card will upset a whole lot of collectors.
So if you're going to make a change to the Gretzky rookie, and I think it's a great example, but I also think that it speaks to other sports as well. We're using the Gretzky rookie, it's one I'm very familiar with, but I think this would apply to major cards in all 4 major sports. But as far as the Gretzky goes, just to discuss using that example, if we see the card going up in the marketplace on eBay as an example, and we're seeing PSA 7s, let's say, double in value. If a PSA 7 is a near mint plus card, which should be what the Beckett raw value is supposed to represent, the same condition, not a graded 7 or a graded near mint plus, but a near mint to mint card. Why do we not change the value of that Gretzky card in the Beckett book value, especially when it's easy enough to identify that card has, say, doubled in value and not looking at recent times, it has doubled in value in the last 5 months, 6 months. Mm-hmm. Why would Beckett not change that as soon as it sees that? I mean, we know. I understand some people are going to think it's right. Some people are going to think it's wrong. But if Beckett's purpose is to reflect the market, mm-hmm. why so much caution, I guess? And I'm sorry if it feels like the same question. I'm just trying to really dig in and understand.
Oh, it's fine. It's just such a scary, for me, it's a scary card, but I think specifically the price guide manager, he just has this baseline on cards like that. You just need to be 100% sure. And we're always open and we welcome your information and your advice. So, a lot of the way that Beckett used to do this was we would pick up the phone and call dealers or card shops and say, "Hey, what do you have this card priced at?" And that's how they would price cards. Now it's, we're searching, the internet and auction houses and all kinds of sites to come up with a fair market value. So we were talking off air, and Gretzky is, in some cases, it's priced as a poor. I'm just looking at the price right now, and it's priced at 4. Beckett low is 400. Beckett high is 800, and I'll agree with you. It needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to put that in my notes right now, and we're gonna have to talk about this when we get to the office on Monday, because it's a hard card to deal with. For instance, here's a BGS 6 that sold for $989, but here is a PSA authentic altar that sold for $400. So it's right and it's wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I guess you have on your side in all this, and somewhat as a bit of a protection for the values you're assigning, is that Beckett's always used a high and a low price value. So there's the 2 columns. So, and I think it's a great idea. It's a great way to do it, because cards are not always sold for the same price. That's just obvious. So while a near mint Wayne Gretzky in raw condition might sell for these days, I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find one for under $1,000. No one's going to let it go. So how are you going to get it? Mm-hmm. So, but you might be able to get as much as $1,500 for a raw copy that is in near mint condition. If you see a raw copy that seems to be in gem mint condition, well, you're going to be $4,000 or $5,000 probably right now. But that's not what we're talking about. You guys, the magazine reflects near mint value. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, 400 to 800, definitely old news. I mean, you can find, speaking of some of the other PSA, a competitor to Beckett Grading Services, a PSA 1 Gretzky, those are selling for, $600 and up at sometimes if they're nice. So that's already within the range of what should be like a 7, I think, in terms of the raw standard value, the grade for the raw card that you guys value in the magazine. So I think it's definitely primed to be increased. It's been sitting at that $900 level for 20 years already. The market's certainly changed. So if nothing else comes out of it, I think it's important to change that. And that might send a message to the whole hobby, not just the hockey market, but other sports as well, that, hey, hockey's on the move as well. And I think that's something that myself as a hockey collector and other hockey collectors would like to see, because we understand that hockey is kind of, it's Canada's sport, and it's the fourth most important sport down in the United States after basketball, baseball, football. Mm-hmm. But it's, I say this kind of tongue in cheek, we're a little bit tired of being kind of the afterthought, in terms of the hockey collector market. Sure. And so perhaps by showing the market through the Beckett magazine that, this card and others are worth a lot more than they were 10 years ago, might send a message. I'm just sort of thinking out loud there, but
yeah, makes sense. So it makes total sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So a couple more people have joined us. I just want to welcome them to the show as well. Brian McDonald says hello. Hello to you, Brian. Rich, welcome to you. Banganyan. Colin Murray, how you doing, man? Saw you a couple days ago. Ernie says, Eric, I want ice cream. Bobby Burrell is with us. Bobby has a similar job that or project that you do, Eric, or that your trainee does, and that Bobby publishes the Vintage Hockey Collector magazine, and he does a bit of a price guide too in there. So, and he was a guest on my show not too long ago, and we've had the exact same discussion. So interesting stuff. You're not the only one that we're sure. talking about it, and I think so. It's something that's happening. Jeff McMahon, hello, lovely shows. Love having you, Jeff. Thanks for joining. Bobby Burrell says balls in terms of changing the price of the Gretzky rookie. Amish Dave Archer, welcome to the show, my man. Glad you are able to join us tonight. Rich says, are you publishing based off of people's asking price or the actual final sale price? And I think he's asking that based on your comment, Eric, that, you get on the phone and call guys and say, what are these selling for? So can you just speak to that? Is it sold prices or asking prices or a combination?
It's so we don't do that anymore. There are dealers that will listen to our trusted guys that have been around for a while, but we're definitely going with sold final realized prices.
Thank you. Rich has a question. He says, is the Beckett price guide supposed to reflect the current 25-day period, or is it aimed to be an average of a much longer period?
So that's a good question. People might not like me at Beckett when I say this. The Beckett price guide, the published magazine that you get, it's always going to be at least 45 days off when you get it, just because of when it's published, when those prices are printed, and when it publishes, and by the time you get it in your LCS or your Barnes and Nobles, wherever you're picking it up at. If you take a look at the online price guide, the price changes there reflect much quicker than they do in the print, obviously. So to answer your question directly, it's supposed to be every 25 or 30 days that it reflects. But what it turns out being, it does end up being way off on certain cards, because it's printed and published a month later than what you're actually getting it.
Yeah, and that's I think the market understands that, right? We're sophisticated collectors nowadays, and we recognize that, and it's no secret that Beckett offers the online pricing tool for a subscription. So the magazine is handy to carry around, have at card shows as a reference. Fewer and fewer dealers use it to price their cards now, if any still do, because there's just other information out there. But it's still a great tool for looking up trade values and cards that are less often bought and sold. Certainly helps out there. But it also gives the novice a tool to refer to. If they don't know much, it's often the first place people go just to assess a value to their cards. I'm sure insurance companies even would use it, although it may not be the best in the best favor of the person the collector. But in any event, want to say good evening to Yamwax. Welcome to you. Jay Sokol, welcome to the show. Glad you're soaking up the information. Here's a question from Joe. Eric, Joe says, would it be fair to say that there is so much new product to keep track of that the vintage iconic cards may not be on the radar as much as they should be, especially with the uptick in vintage?
Yes, that's absolutely fair. Like I said, and what Joe points out, there is so much new stuff that gets all of the attention. And that, I think that's back to we were talking about the Gretzky earlier. That's probably why it's sat at 800 for such a long time. And we try to catch that when the hockey book comes out. That comes out once a year. We'll try to look at that. And then the graded book comes out twice a year. We look at it then. The Vintage Collector magazine comes out quarterly, and we'll look at it then. But there's so much new stuff that it's really tough to keep out. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if everything from 1990 back gets cut out of the hockey magazine at some point, and you're going to have to go online to find it. It's just because there's so much new stuff.
The old me would have said, "Oh, you can't do that," but the new me would say that's a great idea, because first of all, it's a lot of wasted paper on pricing that doesn't ever change, and really how many people are using it. And hey, the world's changing to a digitally driven marketplace, so for you to move your readership over to there, I think makes a lot of sense. But of course, I'm sure there's many more business issues you need to discuss before a decision like that is made, or a move like that is made. But that makes good sense to me. I'd have no problem with that as a hobbyist. I just want
everybody to say, I didn't say it was going to happen. I said I just wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. I don't want those emails.
Well, hey, sometimes some great ideas can be hatched right here, just chatting among two hobbyists and kind of brainstorming on things with the help of the viewers as well. So here's a question from Jay Sokol. He says, why are the published guide prices sometimes different than the online price guide?
It's just about timing. It's a matter of when we hit print or publish on those magazines, and then it literally we could do that, and then a week later a guy could get hurt and he'll drop, and that's why it's just all about timing.
So educate me a little bit, if you can, on some of the other sports. And I mean, I do collect the other sports, but I have most experience in terms of consuming the Beckett magazine, being the hockey magazine. So we've talked about the Gretzky rookie. What cards what card in basketball, baseball, football would kind of be the equivalent in terms of it's a card that is very sensitive? You don't just go change the value flippantly. You guys do a lot of research, a lot of discussion before you do that. What would be the card in baseball if one come? And I know this is out of left field for you. Does something come to mind that would be that card in baseball?
Trout, 2011 update Trout.
And that's a high volume card too, so it's easy to get a value on. Yeah.
Currently, Zion Williamson. Anything Zion Williamson is a big talk. Anything LeBron James, like we just bumped 0304 Bowman Gold LeBron James. It was drastically undervalued, and it was something that we had to have a conversation about and bump it. And this might seem like a fluff answer, but rare inserts from the 90s. That's another area where we have to really, because there's not a lot of whole lot of information out there. But like back to hockey specifically, Gold, StarQuest Gold, and for what was that 97, 98? That's a tough decision because there's just not a whole lot of information out there. I will tell you right now, yes, those are undervalued in the Beckett price guide, but there's not information to bump it. I know that it needs to be bumped. The guys around me know that it needs to be bumped, but I can't just throw a number at it blindly either.
Fair enough. Yeah, it can be tough. And it's funny you mentioned StarQuest Gold. I did see, I think Patrick Waugh just sold recently for like $800 or $900. Yep. And it had some damage on it even. I don't know what that card books for, but just from what you're saying, it probably books for less than $800 or $900. And even if one big card moves, and that's only a 30 card checklist, and you've got mostly stars in there, but if you see the sale of a player of a Patrick Waugh caliber, you could then potentially, I would assume you could potentially take the formula that's applied to the other, or the multiplier type formulas, and apply them to the other players on the checklist to get their new values as well. However, does it make sense for you, and this is the question, does it make sense for you guys at Beckett in terms of price guide analysts, does it make sense to take one sale, a card that might transact once a year publicly? Can you take that one sale and change a whole set's pricing based on one sale?
I don't think so. I don't think it's smart to. That's the argument that the wall. So within three or 4 months, the wall sold, a Martin Brodeur sold, and a Jaromir Jagr sold, and it was enough then that we could make educated guesses on that set. But if it was just the wall, I don't think it's smart. But then collectors get upset. And that's where we rely on dealers and guys who are embedded in it. We welcome their information as long as it's researched and credited information, then we'll take it and listen to them. But if it's hey, I sold this card for $500 north of your book value in my card shop, and okay, what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah, I can see that. I don't envy the job for sure. So I certainly understand it, and I do commend you guys for being cautious with these things. I think it's important. It's a lofty position to have, being a price guide analyst. Really, it can really impact the hobby. So I think erring on the side of caution is important. But I will say I'd like to see the Beckett price guide become more relevant again. And I think to do that, it has to reflect fairer market values, what's actually happening. I think that's nothing wrong with that. Carlos says that it's $98.99. StarQuest Gold were ridiculous, super tough, and they almost never appear. The guide prices are crazy low compared to what they cost when they do appear. So I think we all agree on that. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carlos, and welcome to the show. Joe says, on your research teams, what due diligence occurs with regard to closed sales being confirmed as paid?
That is a question that is for somebody above my pay grade. I know that we have our software that that researches this, and then we have an analyst that goes over those informations. Now, granted, the analysts that are looking at these, they're not always very familiar with the sport that they're working in. They're getting better at it, but then it's up to the actual senior analyst to go, all right, this doesn't look right. Let me see if this was paid for. Why is this so high? Why is this so low? And it's a lot of research on everybody's part involved to make sure that it's an actual legit sale. There are gosh, I don't even want to say that out loud. There are there are places that we just don't look at the sold sales from, because we know.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. I'm sure you have your reasons, and that's fine. All right. 90s B-Ball cards. Jake, who will be my guest on October 3rd. Jake, welcome to the show. He's late to the party. I want to say happy to see Eric the Goat. Eric, you're one of the goats, man. Thank you, Jake. Here's a question from Rich. So I'm not sure. I haven't read it in full, but let's see. He's asking, is it feasible to have an asterisk beside cards that perhaps in the last 25 days significantly over or under the published Beckett range?
Feasible? I think that's what the up and down arrows are for, because those arrows are there for they're supposed to be there for 30 days. So I think the arrows would help you there. I don't know that it is feasible though to have an asterisk next to every card that is high or low. Again, that's just because of human error. We catch as much as we can, but we don't catch everything. So to think that to have an asterisk next to every card that didn't have that might be low or high in the last 25 days, I don't think that's realistically a possibility.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. Okay, man. All right. Well, listen, I think that's good on the whole pricing. It's a tough job. I think we all recognize that now. But really for what it is and for what you guys are doing, it seems to me like the approach you're taking is as good as it can possibly be right now. I just think that certain things need to catch up. And maybe you mentioned the kind of the timelines of, every 25 days you guys do a review, and every year the book comes out, and quarterly the vintage comes out. I wonder, and I'm just saying this out loud, I wonder if there's a time, or if it's now maybe time to do a more thorough kind of review of things, especially based on what's been going on lately. And we've seen these prices hold. I mean, not to say they're going to always hold, but we have seen them hold for quite some time now. So I think key and important cards, and there's hundreds of them, maybe due for a review. We'll leave it at that, man. Thanks for addressing all that. I know it's not easy. Some challenging questions there, but I do appreciate your candor and your willingness to discuss it. All right.
No problem.
You've been with Beckett now for 6 years. You've mentioned that you were the price guide analyst for the first 4 years, and then you're no longer. Can you just take us through, give us a bit of an idea about what your jobs have been at Beckett during your tenure there?
Sure. So the first job that I had at Beckett, I got hired as the Beckett coin analyst. I'm gonna raise my hand and tell you I know nothing about coins. I don't know. I bold-faced lied to the people that hired me. I was like, yeah, I can do coins. No, I couldn't. It was I tried. But the intent was always to move me over to a sport, and that sport happened to be hockey. So I did that for 4 years. And then actually, I guess I did coins for about a year, then I did hockey for 4. And the beginning of this year, honestly, like January 3rd, I walked back into the office and they were like, congratulations, you're the new social media manager. And that's what I've been doing since January. It's a job that I actually wanted to do for a long time. I applied for it 3 different times and it didn't work out. But this time they literally just handed it to me and said, you do this well, so we want you to do this for us. And that's what I've been doing since January. I love it. It's a lot of fun. With that comes, so I handle the social media for Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, CBCS Comics. With that, I don't grade, I don't authenticate autographs or look at comic books to grade as well, but I handle their social media. I also do it for the Beckett Marketplace and Beckett Media proper. I also run the day-to-day business of the Beckett Marketplace. So if there's a problem there with a customer service issue or something like that, all that comes to me and I straighten that out. Then I have the Beckett live shows that we do. Tuesdays are a lot of fun. My good friend, your good friend, Steve Grad, we host a show called Grad School together, and we talk a lot of autographs and memorabilia. And then Wednesdays and Thursday nights are kind of up in the air. I get to choose who I want to talk to and about what. And you mentioned Jake Roy. He was on earlier. Jake's going to be my guest next Tuesday night, so we're going to have a lot of fun.
You got to stop sniping my guests, man.
Actually, I had him set up for Thursday, but him and Steve had to flip. So it's a lot of fun doing this. What you're doing, again, I think you're doing a great job. This is what I really, really love and enjoy doing. So it's a good fit for the social media aspect of my job. And I get to come home and do these shows on the nightly basis, or mostly nightly.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I love what you're doing too. I tune into the show regularly. It's nice. And I love, Steve's a buddy of mine. I like to hear what he has to say. You have interesting guests, and we've had many of the same guests already, both on your show and on my show. So a little bit of overlap, but hey, I think we have our shows are different. I think one of the key differences is that you're an employee of Beckett. You're representing the brand, the company. You have sponsors, so it's a bit of a different type of show from that perspective. Whereas I have no sponsors, I have no employer. I just come on and do my thing with the guests. And I think it's we offer two different sort of products, and I think they're both awesome. I love what you're doing, so keep it up, man. I'll continue to keep on tuning in for sure.
Can I say, when I was doing the fat packs, I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna bust your balls a little bit. Like for 2, maybe 3 years, I was like, Jeremy, every time I was in Toronto, I was like, hey, you gotta come. Can you come do my show? And you kind of blew me off. Not like you were just like, no, who's this guy or whatever. But you're like, I don't want to do that. And this is the kind of vibe I got from you. But it's funny now that you're doing it, and it's a lot of hard work, right? So you understand, trying to get guests, booking guests is not the easiest thing in the world. And it's funny that I'm doing your show first before we do my.
Man, you're making me feel bad right now. Because I know I've seen you at a dozen expos, a half a dozen nationals, and you're right. You say it. You've asked me every time, and it's not that I haven't wanted to do it. It's really just I just didn't know what the next steps would be. So anyway, but I appreciate it, man. It's flattering to know that you wanted me on the show. I do remember that, and I wish I'd come on before, and then it could have been in the proper order.
Right,
But,
it's fine. It's okay. Can I expand on that a little bit?
Sure.
So you were talking about the first time we ever met earlier in the show, and Steven brought me over to you, and we had a conversation about the Gretzky, and that all happened. The rest of that story is that you and I were at the same after party that night, the Grosvenor after party at this, I forget where it was, complete open bar. I don't drink, so it's not a problem. Everybody in the bar is drinking and eating food, and me and you are sitting in a booth talking about Wayne Gretzky cards.
Oh, I do remember. We were playing some sort of like life-size bowling game or something like that. Was that what it was?
It was bocce ball. So it was soccer and pool mixed together.
Yes, but like life size where I remember. Yes, I do remember. And I do remember chatting with you and another person from Beckett. I remember
it was LaRoche.
That was okay. It's all coming back to me now. And when I had Steve on, that didn't even come up. But now that you remind me, I do remember that evening quite well. And I remember thinking to myself after, I think I got them to move the Gretzky price in the Beckett. I think I got them to do it because I was really pleading with you to do something there. So, but I guess I didn't, and maybe this time I have. Hopefully, we'll get something done this time.
We definitely will. Sorry, I just had an Amber Alert. Let me turn my phone down. My bad.
No problem. You better make sure that's nothing that you can't miss here.
Yeah. There we go. We're good now. All right.
So you mentioned Fat Packs. Tell us a little bit about Fat Packs then.
Oh, so Fat Packs was, man, I loved that show. It was so fun. So there was a Beckett podcast. I think it was just called Beckett Radio. And to be honest with you, the guys that did it were good, but it was very sporadic about when it was released. Like they'd go 2 whole weeks without a show, and then they'd put 3 out in a week or something like that. It was always, the timing was always odd. And the guy that was in charge of the price guide department, he had a completely different vision for what he wanted that show to be. He wanted to be like an infomercial, like how to use the online price guide or what the up and down arrows mean in the magazine and stuff like that. But it was thanks, Jake. I appreciate that, buddy.
Sorry to distract you there, Eric.
No, it's fine. It was very sporadic, and then one of the guys just kind of quit. Like he just didn't have time to do it anymore. So he didn't do it. So I stepped into that role, and me and Derek Ficken, we started doing a consistent show, and it was still very, very low number wise. Like we were getting 100 downloads a week. It wasn't anything very serious at all. And then Derek moved out of the department, and he went over to the grading side of things, and then it left myself. And there was another guy there, Paul Worth, who has since went on and opened up his own card shop. What's up, Paul? He's doing great things down there in Waxahachie, Texas. But he went and opened up his own card shop. But before he did that, I basically told him, like, hey, you're coming with me, and we're going to go do this show. And the reason it was called Fat Packs is because we are both 2 pretty rotund guys, and it was a good play on word, and it made a lot of sense. So that Fat Pack show was just a labor of love. Sorry, and it was we made sure it was consistent. I booked all the guests. I did all the question prep. I did all the social media for it, and there were times where the people who were in charge are like, we don't get what this is. We don't understand this, and we want to stop it. And I just kept asking. I'm like, look, just give me a month. Just give me a month. Just give me a month. And I said that probably 4 or 5 months, just give me a month. And then it worked. It finally clicked. And it became just a great show. We were nominated for a national podcast award here in the States. And it was a consistently good show. It wasn't there was no inconsistency at all once it got rolling, and we had a lot of fun over the years. That lasted 3 years. We did 360 episodes of that show, exactly 360 episodes. So when we on episode 360, we switched over to Beckett Live. After that, it was like we had come full circle, and it was time to do something different. And I'll be honest with you, I fought. I never wanted to do a live video show. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't anything I was comfortable with, but I'm enjoying myself now, though.
Awesome. Hey, and you're doing a great job. So I hear you. A couple comments I want to bring on. We put on Jake's. I'll put it up again. What I like about what he says is that Fat Packs is part of what inspired him to start his channel. And Jake's got a great YouTube channel. Everybody out there, if you aren't familiar with it, it's right there on the screen. 90s B-ball cards. Check it out. And again, he will be my guest on October 3rd. Here's a question from Sean Robb. He says, is there any plans to change the Beckett Marketplace checkout process, in particular to select specific sellers?
Sean, I don't. Send me an email, Sean, and tell me specifically what you're asking about. Because if there's an issue with it, I want to check it out. You can email me at ericn@beckett.com, and I will. Sean, you just send me that specific sellers. I don't quite understand that question.
No problem. And I have Eric's Twitter account streaming right now on the ticker. So Sean, you can also reach out to him there if you didn't catch that email address, which I don't have loaded up and ready to go. Amish Dave Archer says, Fat Packs, do you still keep in touch with Paul? You mentioned he's got a card shop. So I do. This is the second episode where I'm doing the new feature called Card of the Day, and it's quite simply where I'm going to show a card from my personal collection that somehow ties into my guest. So we've already got that card picked out. But I mentioned to you earlier, Eric, that I have a second card that I want to show, but I was going to sort of surprise you. Okay. So here's the second card for Card of the Day, but I'm going to bring it up now at the 47-minute mark.
Look at that! Very nice. Very nice.
Hey,
that was our first card. That was it.
That's your rookie card, man.
Yeah. That art is by Brent Naughton. I love Brent. He's a great guy. One Star Gum did the card design. Did you get that? Was in 2017, the Chicago National, right?
Yeah. I got this from you guys at the table there. I came up and got you to sign it for me. Yeah.
Very nice. Awesome.
I thought you might like that. I like it. I still have it. It's been displayed up there on my top shelf for the last few days in anticipation of you coming. So even last night when we were hanging out, you didn't. You wouldn't have seen that there.
Very nice.
Here we go. I see you sent me your email address, so I will quickly put that up on the screen for you, Sean. And there you go. Eric@beckett.com is now available if anybody wants to email Eric and talk about price guides or the marketplace. We have a comment here, Eric, from Joe. He says, 30 years later, I still get excited when that coveted Beckett shows up in the mail. Thank you, everyone at Beckett Services. You guys are huge in the hobby. Very nice. Thanks for the comment, Joe. Eric Stefano says, Fat Packs helped me a lot the last year after 20-year hiatus of being out of the hobby. That's pretty cool. Nice to hear that.
Nice.
Welcome to the show tonight, Eric. Bromp is back, says, nice humble beast hat. I met the guys from Beautiful Eulogy before.
Very nice. That's cool.
There you go. Great. I don't even know what you guys are talking about, but I'm sure it makes sense.
So Humble Beast is it's the hat I'm wearing. It is a record label in Portland. It's a Christian hip hop record label, and Beautiful Eulogy, 3 white guys that can rap. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. All right. And Matt says, I think he means when you add a bunch of cards to your cart, you can't check out by individual seller.
Ah, I see. Yeah. That is an issue. We have been trying to work on that. With that being said, it was part of our plans at the beginning of the year, and then COVID hit and everything changed. So if that is the question, yes, that's something that we're looking at, and we're hoping to maybe have something in Q2 of next year. But I cannot promise that as we're still progressing through this pandemic, just like everybody else.
Yeah, man, for sure. You got to prioritize and get to things as you can. Follow-up question from Sean Robb, and one that I find very interesting as well. He says, how are sales at Beckett Marketplace? Is this a record year for volume?
It's stupid. It's so stupid. Yeah, they're great. The Beckett Marketplace is very strong right now. I believe all our dealers are pretty happy with what's going on. it's I hesitate to say this, but like it started the day after Kobe Bryant passed away. That's when it started, and it's been kind of riding that high ever since. And it's happened across all. It doesn't matter if it's eBay or Sport Lots or wherever you're going. I think everybody's having record sales years right now, and it's because I think guys like ourselves are sitting at home with maybe some disposable income, going, "Oh, I remember this card. I want to buy it," and it happens a lot.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Okay, so we talked a bit about fat packs and that. You've obviously been part of hobby content, online hobby content for a while now. And currently there's been an explosion of online content, whether it be the amount of people using Instagram or Facebook groups, and then of course YouTube, this show here, your show. So what are you seeing in terms of the evolution of hobby content from your perspective? Like, and it's funny because you said just before that you were a little standoffish in terms of switching from an audio show to a video show. Mm-hmm. So can you speak a little bit to the evolution of hobby content and how you feel its impact is on the hobby?
I think it's kind of driving the hobby right now. I think everybody has an opinion. And they want to get it out there. I once said, and I stand by it. If you want to start a podcast, all you have to do is have a microphone and half an idea, and you can get one started. And that's pretty much it. Now, with that being said, there is some good quality content being created out there, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook Live or wherever you're consuming it. But I think there's two distinct different segments. There are guys who are collectors, and they're set collectors, and they care about your base card, and they want they want the old. I call them the old guard. That old guard is very protective about what the hobby is. They have very strong feelings and opinions about what the hobby is. And then there's the new guard, that Gary V generation that comes in and Gary Vee told them to buy PSA 10 Larry Birds, so that's what they did. And then they flipped them, and then they made some money, and they kept doing it with everything that Gary Vee told them to do. And I don't have any opinion on Gary Vee, whether he's good for the hobby or bad for the hobby. I think it's been just a really cool roller coaster to be on since he's been involved in it. But there's those two different segments, and they don't mash well at all. I don't see, there's no crossover really at all. Then there's guys like me. I'm in the middle. If you want to collect. If you want to flip. I don't care. It's your stuff. So I just try to be entertaining.
Yeah. That's a good approach, right? I mean, if you're going to try and keep people watching, hey, there we are, two bald guys. If you're going to try and have an audience stick with you throughout a show, it helps to entertain them. That's for sure. There's another show called Hobby Hotline that is hosted by friends of yours, pretty much new friends of mine, guys I've just gotten to know very recently. I mentioned earlier that this morning I recorded a podcast with Drew Herndon, who does Let Me Get That Potograph. So that was exciting. That should have dropped tonight. And one of the, I asked you the question. I'm going to turn around a little bit on myself in terms of hobby content. I started my show, this show, because, it kind of filled the need I had. I wanted to go sell some cards one night, and it just sort of turned into an interview show. But I also was looking for hobby content to consume. Mm-hmm. And this goes back to about a year and a half ago. And when I started the show, it did sort of fill a void. One part of the void was that there wasn't much to do when COVID hit and the pandemic hit and social distancing. So, but even since I started, and this for the first episode of Sports Cards Live was on April the 16th. And at that point, there wasn't that much out there, but now there is a ton out there. And one of my favorite parts of it is being able to meet other people. So not only do we have that we collect cards in common, but we also have that we're content creators or YouTubers in common as well, which makes us, that much more able to have a great conversation and a relationship, a friendship. So that's been a lot of fun. The guys from Hobby Hotline were very welcoming. I've got them scheduled to come on the show. And you are now a co-host, a semi-regular type of co-host on their show, their Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern. What was it like doing your first co-host with them, and what was it like when that other bald guy called in and joined you on screen?
So actually, that wasn't my first. I guess that was my first official. I'd been on that show a couple of different times. I know all those guys really well. Really well. Drew is, he's a great guy. John is a great guy. John actually last year at the Toronto Expo, I had John drive up from, he's from Northern New York, and he drove up and he stayed in my hotel room, and we went to the Expo together. We had a lot of fun. It's a little weird when you say, hey, honey, I'm going to go stay in Toronto with this guy I know. It doesn't always work out well for everybody, right?
This YouTuber.
Yeah, this YouTuber. So, John is a great guy. He's really smart. John was he had a card shop back in the 90s, and now he's not doing that, but he's still involved in the hobby. He's fun. Dub as well. All those guys, we've all known each other for a while. Back in 2017, back at the National, there were 5 podcasts. That was it. There's close to 200 now. Either podcast or web shows or whatever. So I was really excited to see you jump on, and I was like excited to introduce them to you because I knew who you were. And I told each one of them after you jumped off the show and after we ended the show, I was like, look, Jeremy's smart. If you want to have a good guest, you get Jeremy. And I'm happy to hear that you've lined some of that up already.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. And yeah, so Drew, who's I think pretty much kind of the main host of Hobby Hotline, he had me we recorded this morning. He dropped this evening. He said, I haven't heard it yet, but we did it this morning. John Newman, who you're referring to, is my guest on September 26th. And I'm pretty sure he's invited me onto his show as well. So we'll get that done eventually. It's fun, man. It's, a lot of, one of the biggest benefits or rewards of me doing this show is that I get to spend time with all my guests, not just during the episode, but usually the night or two before, when we kind of just get together and do a little bit of talking and building some rapport and planning a little bit of the topics we're going to discuss. So I feel quite fortunate that I've been able to spend so much time with so many people who are at all levels in the hobby. It's been a great hobby experience, So
it's really fun. You said at all levels of the hobby. I think that's important. I think there are good quality shows out there, such as this or Hobby Hotline that the Sport Card Investor. Jeff is a great guy and he's really smart. But for the novice, that might be a whole lot to jump into because he's throwing a lot of information at you that could help you flip a card. Shows like Hobby Hotline or Beckett Live Presents or this Sports Card Live, we kind of dumb it down a little bit to help everybody out as we can. Not that there's anything wrong with what the Sports Card Investor does, because it's a great show, but there's a show for every level. And to the novice who's jumping in, they might want to jump in and get all that sport card investment knowledge. They might be smart that way and can use that information to really get going. But then there's guys who have been gone from the hobby for 20 years, like the commenter earlier, and he's jumping back in and he needs a place to start. So there's something for everybody.
For sure. There's so much information to consume out there right now. And I guess one of my questions for you was going to be, when we were talking about Beckett Live Presents, your current show, my question was going to be, what are some of the goals and sort of the mission, if you will, for the show? And you reminded me of the question because you just said, it's actually, I'll let you answer that. I'm not going to answer the question for you, Eric.
Sure. No, it's, I didn't know. I didn't really, my hand was forced. When COVID hit, the governor of Texas said, basically the counties can do what they want to do. So the Dallas County judge, he shut us down. Like he said, non-essential workers have to go home. So I grabbed my stuff and I went home on March 21st, and I didn't know when I was coming back to the office. And so when I left, I didn't have my podcasting equipment. I was my hand was forced. I had sponsors that we had to take care of, and I had content that I had to create. So I had to go buy a webcam and a USB mic and started doing live video. So I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I will tell you this: in an average year for the Fat Packs podcast, we did about 60,000 downloads. We've been doing this since the middle of April, and we're at 152,000 downloads. So it's better. The content's better. The downloads are better. And it's a lot of fun, I guess. So right now, just looking at it, by the end of the year, December 31st, I would like to be somewhere near 200,000 downloads.
And I think a part of that is that people have more time on their hands than they've ever had before, right? Sure. So they're consuming more content. So it's just like supply and demand, which was a big topic on my show last week on Wednesday. There's more demand for hobby content, so the supply has just sort of appeared over time. Couple comments I want to bring on. Amish Dave Archer, another YouTube channel, one that I watch, and I recommend everyone check him out. So there it is on the screen, Amish Dave Archer. Check out that YouTube channel. He says, "Woo, I'm the old guard. Give me those 90s inserts." This is back to when you were talking about the two different types. He says, "But I'm going to always be squarely in the corner of never telling folks how to spend their money." And you just brought up Jeff Wilson of Sports Card Investor, and I think, and I haven't watched much of his show as much lately as I was when it really first, up until a couple months ago, I guess, I just time-wise, but it seems to me like that on his show, it's a lot of showing cards that are on the move. Mm-hmm. And whereas, and that's fine. I think the hobby there's a need and there's a demand and there's a want for that sort of information. A lot of the new people coming into the hobby are coming in because they're just seeing dollar signs. And for those people, Jeff, I think, delivers a great product. Yeah. But if you're going to come into the hobby and you're coming in from as a collector, if you really have the collector gene, and I know it because it's deep in me, if you have the collector gene, I think it's good to check out all the content out there and then kind of hone in on the ones that speak the most to you. And my goal, I guess one of my goals for Sports Cards Live is to become a library of episodes that are kind of like must watch, jump right in, immerse yourself in the hobby, and you get the cross section of guests and that sort of thing. So kind of just my thoughts on that. Eric Stefano says, "I love all the different shows." And I think that's awesome that Eric, that you do love them all, Eric, because there are so many great shows out there. And I say that like I truly mean it, because I feel so fortunate that I say it a lot on the show. I'm sorry if it comes across cheesy, but it's like I'm making new friends in all this, and people that I can't wait to see in person and have a meal with, or have a drink a beer with, or show them my pickups at the National or the Expo and meet up. And like, I really look forward to that. And not just other hosts or content creators, but even the people that are commenting episode after episode and becoming really real familiar names. Eric, on your show, do you have that? Are you experiencing that same thing where you have the same viewers every time and you almost feel like you know them?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, guys that hop in nightly, and I love them. Because I answered this question actually the other day. There are some people that knew who I was from the Fat Packs, and they came over with me. And then there are people who are just discovering who I am in on the Beckett Live brand, and they've been a lot of fun. And I've found that those are maybe even more so than the Fat Packs listeners are a little more loyal because this is how they consume content. I hear it all the time that, hey, I miss the Fat Packs. Where's the podcast? Well, I'm not doing the podcast anymore. I'm doing this. And, it kind of turns them off a little bit. But these guys who consume content like this, they love it, and you can count on them being there, every night. Yeah,
it's great. I agree. I just put this up there. I'll throw it up again. Eric says the amount of YouTube content the last 2 months is unreal. Rich says the collector gene. Amen. Yeah, we have the collector gene. Eric says this is all I thought of the whole last year. He's obsessed with it. I mean, it's all aside from my day job and my family, the hobby's all I've thought about for the last 35 to 40 years. So I certainly hear where you're coming from, Eric. I'm right there with you, my man. All right. Now back to the Eric on screen with me. So the one thing that I think all content creators have in common right now is that we're all aware of and somewhat discussing the hype that is surrounding the hobby right now, right? There's a lot of hype. We all know that. Ties into another topic I like to discuss, is really the state of the market. The state of the market right now is a market of hype. And, I think a lot of the hype is real. And I think that some of it is, not good, not healthy. I think a lot of it's healthy, a lot of it isn't healthy. What have been your observations, Eric, in the last, really since COVID? What have been your observations in terms of the market, the hobby market, and what do you see as being overhyped and what do you see as being underhyped?
Sure. When everything hit, we were just on the prefaces of Zion Williamson exploding. He had played 8 games in the NBA, 8, and his market was untouchable. It was stupid, and the same that could be said for Ja Morant, and then the previous year's rookies, Luka Doncic and Trae Young. It was, and it's still that way. That hype train led right into Louis Robert for Chicago. It led right into him, right into Jason Dominguez right after that. For a kid who has never swung a major league bat in his life, for the way his stuff was selling immediately was nuts. And then Patrick Mahomes, and the hobby hype train did not stop. And like I said earlier, it's guys my age who are buying up old stuff. I'm 40 years old. They're buying stuff they didn't have when they were a kid, and then they see, oh, Pat Mahomes is hot. Let me pick this up. And I think, so to answer your question directly, I think Jason Dominguez is overhyped. I think Jason Dominguez is way overhyped. I think Luis Robert strikes out way too much, and is a little bit overhyped. But I can't fault the guys who are riding that train and selling that stuff. I think that there are some hockey players, specifically Miro Heiskanen, that is really underhyped, and he should. The Dallas Stars won tonight. What was it? 4-1, right? Is that what the score was?
Last I saw, 4-1.
So there are players on the hockey market that are absolutely underhyped, and there are players in the soccer market as well. Kylian Mbappe comes to mind, and Christian Pulisic and Miles Greenwood. Those guys are like they're right there on the, like the burner's getting hot. You can feel it. It's gonna blow up. But I think Mbappe might already be out of that range. But once they start really paying attention to the soccer market and the hockey market, they're going to find a whole nother set of guys to run up the prices on, and then they'll be out of touch for all of us.
Yeah, I hear that for sure. You mentioned Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars, the defenseman, and that he's probably underhyped. I just want to comment on that because I watch a lot of hockey, and I've watched a lot of Dallas this playoffs because they started out playing against my Calgary Flames, so I watched every game they played. And Heiskanen controlled the games. He's an absolute marvel. The knock against him is that he's a defenseman, and there's like this kind of, it's almost like a rule now in the hobby that defensemen get no hobby love. And this year we've got, in addition to Heiskanen being a rookie from a couple years ago, this year we've got a couple of great rookies, defenseman rookies in the form of Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes. And I've said it before on a previous episode, but I wonder if we're entering an era where defensemen may get a little bit more hobby love. And I think part of that hinges on they need to get on the score sheet more often than most defensemen do. So I hear you, and I appreciate you bringing him up because I've been talking a lot about him. I think he's an excellent player, and he's a candidate for the Conn Smythe Trophy in my opinion. Although their goaltender Kudobin has been lights out. So he may get that award now if they go through and win the cup. They only need 3 more wins.
Right.
So I agree with you on the underhype. That's a very specific and narrow example, being Miro Heiskanen. But as far as overhype, I mean, I got to go with Zion Williamson. To take nothing away from his game, especially as a guy who doesn't have many games under his belt, but for his cards to sell for as much as Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Michael Jordan, for a guy who has less than a season and hasn't proven a thing yet, there's definitely overhype. But I don't think that's news to anybody. So, but thank you, man. It's always interesting to hear other people's opinions and observations on what they're seeing going on, because we're all sort of witnessing the same stuff, but we all perceive things a little bit differently. Any further comments on that before we move along to a few comments?
With Zion Williamson being overhyped, I think John Morant is underhyped. I think that John Morant is, of those two players, is going to be the one that really steps forward and has a longer, more established NBA career. Zion scares me to death because of how large he is and those knees and those ankles and I know you look at LeBron James, they're kind of built the same, but Zion already has an injury history, and I think that's where John Morant will have the one-upsmanship on him. Is he hasn't shown that he's prone to injury. I know that he was out for a little bit, but he seems to be better built for an all-around game in the NBA. Does that make sense?
It completely makes sense, and I agree. Zion scares me for those exact same reasons. Just potential injuries that can derail a career altogether. And if you've invested $95,000 into his National Treasures RPA and he has a career-ending injury, explain that one to the wife, sort of thing, right? Exactly. So, okay, man, let's move along. Want to welcome Amit to the show. Amit will be my guest on After Hours, guys, which is going to start in about an hour and 15 minutes from now. So, Amit, welcome. He says, Collector Gene, great guy. That made me chuckle under my breath when I first saw that come in. Amish Dave Archer says, buying stuff from when you were a kid is also rewarding. It sure is, right? That's the nostalgia that really drives the hobby. I believe nostalgia is at the core foundation of this hobby.
Can I stop you right there? Is Dave Archer? Were you not featured as a super collector in a Beckett magazine? I do believe. Can you just tell me yes or no if that was you?
We'll wait for him to bring that in.
Okay.
He goes on to say, I remember reading the Beckett in the 90s and seeing so many cards that I've picked up this year that I never thought I'd get in the mid to late 90s. Yeah, I mean, and that speaks to just I think it's two things. First of all, we're seeing more cards than we've ever seen before in the marketplace because more people have time to list them. And never mind that in the 90s, the internet was in its infancy. So that helps too. Cardboard Nostalgia says, sold my pack-pulled Louis Robert Bowman Chrome auto for $125 a couple years ago, selling almost for $1,000 now. Safe to say I know nothing about baseball prospects. Appreciate your humility on that one. And welcome to the show. Good evening to you. Amish, since he recently turned 40 as well, so same age as you, Eric. Jason Pringle, welcome to the show, my friend. Evening, everyone. Sorry late to the show. Got a half-hour break, and I get to watch some Sports Cards Live. Hey, nice. When someone takes a break and tunes into Sports Cards Live, that puts a smile on my face. Welcome, Jason. Brom said, nobody questions Zion's ability, but where you question is the longevity. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up exactly, right? I mean, the ability and skill is there. The size is there. Mm-hmm. Shaquille was no small man, and he had a great long career. So right, it's true. You never know. And Amish Dave confirms, yes, for Josh Johnson, the old Marlins pitcher, which might be why you even remember that, Eric, because not Marlins, Mariners. My bad.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, so in terms of the market, in our pre-planning for the show, you mentioned that the football market is starting to mirror the basketball market. Yes. For our viewers out there, can you sort of explain what you meant by that comment? But before you do, I just want to address Troy's comment here. I hope nostalgia will carry through with the new generation of collectors. Well, and sorry, Eric, to put you on hold, but I mentioned this the other night, is that we're not going to get them all. And I might have mentioned that this morning on the podcast. Let me get that potograph, where I said that, of all these new investors coming in, Some of them are going to run as soon as they take a loss or lock in a loss or experience a loss. But a lot of them are going to realize that they do have nostalgia in them, because let's face it, a lot of them are male sports fans in North America who have been sports fans or been aware of sports their whole life. So they may come in now as investors, but I think a portion of them will definitely get hit by the bug or the collector gene, or they'll at least awaken that collector gene. So we'll just put that out there. Okay, thanks for that, Troy. Back to you, Eric. Football market starting to mirror the basketball market. Speak to that, please.
It's nuts, right? It really started with Pat Mahomes, and this year's rookie class, right out of the gate, week one, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had you saw a nice big jump of him. But what happened really was, we all look at Prism and Mosaic for basketball for those unreal prices, right? And then first off the line, Mosaic football came out at $830. That's insane. And it's something that I don't think that was really quite expected. And then take a look. I know that I'm a Beckett guy, but take a look at Jerry Rice PSA 10 rookies. There's 56 of them, and the way that they are selling on the market right now is nuts. And I think it's great for football. Who, if it's not a quarterback, it's always been those skill position guys who are hot for 6 weeks and they sell well, and then they just fall off the face of the earth. I think what's going to happen, and what is starting to happen, is some of those skill position players are starting to hold and maybe gain some value as well. And I don't think it's going to get to the basketball level right now. Unless you're Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, where you could see $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a National Treasures RPA. But it's fun to watch, and I'm just interested to see what happens as the season progresses.
Okay, man. No, I makes sense to me, and I don't follow those sports or football. I don't follow as closely as I do hockey and basketball. So I appreciate your insight there. Here's a question from Sean Robb. He says, "What is your opinion on football cards of linebackers, ends, and offensive linemen?"
They never carry the value that they should. Especially linebackers and offensive linemen. Those linebackers they're more represented on cardboard than offensive linemen. But I mean, some of those offensive linemen have a handful of cards, and they get overlooked. I don't know why. They're awesome. I remember specifically when Topps had a football license, they had a subset in museum collection that was offensive lineman Pro Bowl jerseys. And I thought they were completely undervalued. The same with punters and kickers. You don't see a lot of those cards at all. And I think there are great names out there that you would love to see. I have a Lynn Dawson autograph in my collection, number 25. I think it's valued at $10. Lynn Dawson's he was a great kicker. Is he in the Hall of Fame? Maybe. It's a card that doesn't carry value that it should. But specifically to linebackers, you think of those legacy linebackers like Mike Singletary, Derek Thomas, who was in the league for just he died tragically. Clay Matthews, those kind of guys. There should be more value there, a lot more.
I don't know football, and I haven't played fantasy football now for probably 10 years. But the only kicker that I can name is Adam Vinatieri.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. Does he have cards? I mean, does he have cards? Are they popular at all? Because he's the only guy I can name. I'd wonder. He obviously has cards, but does he have a following? Does he get hobby love?
Yeah, he does because of his time in the hobby with the team that he played for. So absolutely, yes, he does get hobby love. But there are other guys out there that don't.
Cool, man. Okay, here's another question from Cardboard Nostalgia. I'll let you take this one, Eric. Are there any undrafted prospects on the horizon for any sport that you expect to receive gigantic hobby love once their rookies are released?
Not on my radar, but that doesn't mean that they're not out there.
Yeah.
Those undrafted guys are tough. I'll tell you one, and it's kind of because I have a personal history with him. Is Cyril Grayson. He's a wide receiver in Tampa Bay. He was undrafted. He is a 4-time national college champion in the 4x100 meter relay at LSU. He is a very, very fast man, and he is on Tom Brady's radar. So he might be one guy. He has one rookie card, and it's in 2018 unparalleled. That's where you're going to find his lone rookie card. So that's something that you could probably look forward to.
There you go. Cardboard nostalgia, Billy. Troy says Derek Thomas no doubt needs more love, and Eric Stefano points out Junior Seau of the San Diego Chargers. I'm familiar with that player. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the potential in the hobby for the hockey market and hockey cards to gain more popularity among the collectors of other sports and predominantly the collectors of basketball. What do you see there for potential moving forward?
There's a set. We talked about this last week. O-Pee-Chee Platinum. It mirrors Prism very well. It mirrors Top Chrome very well. I think a set like that would do collectors well because all those different parallels, how shiny and pretty they are, and I think it's a set that could have a lot of fun. People could have a lot of fun with. I think Upper Deck does a really good job with the high-end stuff, and those markets are established already. But sets like Prism and some of the newer, like Synergy, I love Synergy. Not a lot of people liked it. I liked it a lot. I think sets like that could really do well for collectors of basketball cards and football cards who like the Topps Chrome, the Prism. Those do well, and I think that they should take a look at those.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you on the O-Pee-Chee Platinum. To me, that is the set that the basketball collectors who are so used to all the Prism parallels that they would most identify with. And it's a great entry point, because some of these parallels are, whether it's the Emerald Surges to 10 or the Orange Checkers to 25 or the gold Seismics to 50 or the Golden Treasures, that's the 1 of 1, right, which looks a lot like the gold vinyl that you see in Panini basketball products for the 1 of 1 issues there. So I think that O-Pee-Chee Platinum is a great product that if you're a basketball collector and you're looking to start dabbling in hockey or get into hockey, that's something that for as far as current release products, that's one that you could definitely get into. And then of course there's some of the older Fleer products that came out in the early and mid 2010s that where they paid homage to a lot of the 90s inserts in basketball, like Hot Shots and Jambalayas and Precious Metal Gems and those kinds of things. So
I miss Fleer Showcase. I think it's a great product, and if Upper Deck were to bring it back, I'd buy it immediately.
Same here. Amit says, now all those rookies will be $30 before the end of the night on COMC. Hilarious. They easily could be. There's some great cards in hockey, and but in terms of potential, like what would it take for, in your opinion, Eric, what would it take for hockey cards to, and I don't think they'll ever get to the status of basketball cards, but right now, basketball cards are 40% of the market and hockey cards are 8% of the market. What would it take to close that gap a little bit even?
This, I have to be politically correct when I say this. I think that breakers should be allowed to break it. In Canada, they can, if you're a diamond dealer, you can get product and break it. But most in the States, if you're a diamond dealer, you can get product and break it. But most breakers cannot get new release hockey and break it. And I think if breakers were allowed to get new release hockey product, it would do a lot to help in that area. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I was not aware that breakers in the States that don't have diamond dealer status cannot break that. Is that an Upper Deck rule or yeah?
It is. And I understand Upper Deck's. I understand what Upper Deck is doing. They cater to, and if I'm wrong, I know that Carlin will correct me, and I'm not trying to be wrong, but the way I understand it is, they want the hobby shop to have the product. Completely fine. I get it. But there's also this whole other segment of the hobby called breaking that I think could benefit from having a hockey product.
Yeah, well said. Perhaps some people are listening that can help effect some change in that direction. If that change would be good for the overall hobby, I can't answer that, but others can, and hopefully the responsibility is in the right hands. Yamwak says the iconic inserts and parallels draw me in as a basketball guy. PMGs, jambalayas, essential credentials. Yeah, same here, Yam. I mean, that's what got me into basketball, and then it got me into that segment of hockey. I've been a hockey guy my whole life. Not that I wasn't basketball too, but I wasn't inserts. I was rookies. I was always Hall of Fame rookies. And when I got, it was being exposed to basketball inserts that got me interested in hockey inserts. And I've done some damage since that day, that fruitful day.
So to his point, what they do well there, well, obviously with the hockey is the Flair Showcase stuff. Upper Deck also did very well with those same card sets in their Marvel masterpieces in Marvel the Flair Showcase. It's the jambalayas out of Flair Showcase with those Marvel characters on them. If you're into that at all, they're really cool. And they hold value.
Yeah, I look at them often because I do searches on eBay and or ComC that are quite simply jambalaya or precious metal gems, and because I want to see what's going on in all sports to get a better understanding of the landscape for that particular insert, which I think are very awesome. Amit says, oddly enough, some of those O-Pee-Chee Platinum inserts are named Mosaic or Prism Prism with an S instead of Prism with a Z, which is yeah. And then Amit goes on to laugh at his own comment.
I don't think that's an accident at all.
No, for sure it isn't. For sure it isn't. Right. And then Charles says, and welcome Charles says, hockey needs more marketing in places like China and America, where a lot of the basketball sales come from. Yeah, I could see marketing helping for sure. David French, do the graders cut the totally off topic, but David, welcome to the show and happy to have you. Here's a question, Eric, if you can answer it. Do the graders cut the card savers open when they look at the cards?
Eric, I'm not a grader. Yeah. So they take the cards out of the card saver. The only time that they might not is like if it's an encased card, or it's a graded card review, and they don't want to mess the card up. Recently I had a question like that. It was a Topps pristine LeBron James rookie, and those came encased, and they didn't. The guy was real adamant about it. He was like, I don't want you to open this unless it's going to grade this. So those they don't take those out, but out of the card savers, yeah, they have to.
Yeah, I think the question is, do they take scissors to it, or do they open it up and pull it out? I think
I've always seen them just open it up and take it out. I've never seen a pair of scissors involved.
All right. Okay. Well, there you go, David. If I interpret your question properly, there you go. If not, my apologies. Cardboard nostalgia. Here's a theory as to why hockey doesn't get in love and how it could get more love, or why it gets the love it does. NHL superstars like McDavid, Crosby, and Ovechkin aren't household names like even unproven NBA players like Zion. Ovechkin might get some more ESPN mentions when approaching 894 goals, because that would break Gretzky's record. And the reason why I'm reading this whole question out is ESPN mentions. Those are the key words in there to me that I'm picking out. And I wonder if that's what's limiting hockey from being more the hockey hobby from being more popular in the United States, is that it doesn't get as much airtime on ESPN and in the sports section of the newspapers. Eric, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think when I think it was the lockout that ESPN lost their hockey programming, and Steve Levy and Barry Melrose were not calling Hockey Night in America anymore, and it kind of sucked. Those were the hockey guys on ESPN, and every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night you got hockey on ESPN, and we loved it. I think when they lost that programming and it went to the Outdoor Network here in the States, it was shameful, and ESPN kind of just shut the door on it, kind of like a big screw them. That I think that hurt, and I think if ESPN were to talk about it more, you would see more of an interest in it. I am lucky enough to have lived close enough to the Canadian border to understand what Hockey Night in Canada is, and Don Cherry, and the CBC broadcast of hockey. I've seen it with my own two eyes, and I think it's great, but it's just not here. Now you have to search for it. It's not even like a Sunday game might be on NBC, but otherwise it's on the NBC Sports Network, and not everybody gets the NBC Sports Network. Everybody gets ESPN.
All right, man. Makes sense. Thank you for that. Rich says, I think the Jordan shoe line really does a lot for basketball, having that 40% of the hobby market. It is essentially inadvertent marketing for the NBA. No hockey equivalent. Yeah, good point. Makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to say out loud to Amish Dave Archer, your question will be part of the Sports Cards Live 5 at the end of the show. We will be asking that question to Eric, so be a little patient. We will get to that. Troy says they need to recycle those savers back to the hobby. Yeah, I mean, I hear it, but I wonder how many people want scratched up, messy card savers to put their cards in. But certainly some sort of recycle. This hobby is very wasteful, from its packaging to its supplies. I'd certainly like, and I had a conversation with the people at Ultra Pro at the last National about the recyclability of their product, and I think there's room for improvement in that area, and something that I think as a hobby and just as humanity, we should be more conscious about. As the hobby, our industry, we should be focused a bit more on that than we are for the greater good.
I've seen some of them, and they're not pretty. They have markings all over them. They're scratched up. They're yellow. A lot of it you wouldn't want back into the hobby.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, thanks for that. That was a great chat about sort of the hype and the hype going on in the hobby and state of the market right now. Moving on.
Actually, before we move on, I want to address the Jordan brand. That was a great point. I think I understand that Reebok is where the NHL is right now, but if one or two key players were a part of the Jordan brand, I think it would help the hockey market tremendously. I think it would be awesome.
I wonder if the Jordan brand is open to non-basketball. It probably is. I'm just not aware.
Yeah, they have football. Like, Jordan brand is the Oklahoma Sooner brand. So all the Oklahoma Sooners play in Jordan brand jerseys. It's definitely something they're open to. I think like just one or two key players, maybe an established guy like, maybe just say it, Connor McDavid, and then a key rookie or a key young second-year star. I think it would help hockey a lot.
Yeah. McDavid, like a Jack Hughes or something like that, could be interesting. And man, that'd be great. I think there are a couple of great suggestions to how to do it. Not that we're the people to implement these ideas, but at least there's someone thinking about it. So good stuff. Okay, man. I wanted to talk to you about another thing that Beckett Media does as part of their annual program. Is you guys put on the Industry Summit. And it's always been it's been an in-person event. I think you've held it in Las Vegas for several years. This year it's going virtual, which is awesome. Can you tell us? I've been aware of this thing. I've never been to it. I don't know much about it. So for guys like me who have heard about the Industry Summit, can you just give us an overview of what the event is and what happens there that we are not privy to as collectors?
Sure. I get this question a lot, especially around this time of year when the summit is going on. It's usually in September. It's the third week in September, and we're typically in Vegas. For a while, and it started out there. For every fifth year, it was in Hawaii. But when the Industry Summit, it was first called the Hobby Summit, I think it was, the Hobby Show or something to that effect. And it was always Kit put it on. Kit Young, he put it on. And then, Kevin Isaacson bought it eventually, and it was still in Hawaii. But then it got on a rotation to where it was every fifth year in Hawaii. We've had it in Dallas as well. It's something that a lot of people seem to be interested in. But you need to be in the hobby. You need to be a dealer, a breaker, a content creator, someone who has legs in the hobby. It's not necessarily for guy who has a bunch of 90s junk era wax. It's not really for him. What the content is designed for is to help hobby card shops, help breakers, help even manufacturers to some point that are involved in it, with business practices, security. Like security is a big one this year that we're going to be talking about. It's about scaling up, how to scale, those kinds of things that hopefully the participant, if they're a dealer or a breaker or whatever, will take that information and then bring it back to you, the collector, and present it to you in a way where it makes a difference. It's a lot of people get standoffish about it too. Why can't I go? Why can't I be there? Well, the fact of the matter is it's for those guys who need it. If you're just Joe Schmo collector, you don't necessarily need the information, but you will receive it in some form or fashion from your local card shop or from your breaker or from you might see it from a manufacturer's position. You might not know that you see it, but you will see it.
Okay, well that's cool. So how do you register for this thing, and can anybody register for it now that it's virtual? Are you guys opening it up to more class of attendees, or is it still really for industry insiders or for people that are in the sports card business in some way, shape, or form?
I think there's still really one industry insiders and people who are involved with sports cards on a day-to-day basis as a business. If you just head over to theindustryssummit.com, you can register there. First, I don't know the number where we're at right now, but the first 350 people who do register will get some pretty sweet swag, like a nice swag bag that is going to be, I think there's I don't want to put an exact number on. I think there's somewhere between $600 and $800 worth of value there. There might be more. So those guys who register, the first 350 of those get that swag bag, and it's definitely something cool to write home about, because it's stuff that you're not going to be able to get everywhere else necessarily. Again, they're looking for dealers, for breakers, for people who create content for the hobby on a regular basis, who can bring that back to the public and help them learn what they learned.
Oh, that's cool. I guess part of the reason I'm asking is somewhat self-serving, because I saw an episode of Beckett Live Presents that you were hosting, and your guest was I forget the gentleman's name, but I think he's the manager of the Industry Summit.
Ted Barker.
Ted Barker. Thank you for reminding. I saw you interviewing him, and I thought to myself, oh, that's something that I've never been to it. I might like to go to it. And I heard that the first 350 people were going to get the swag. And I know that these swag bags can have value to them. Mm-hmm. So I went to the website and I registered, and I paid the freight, and I registered. So the fact that you just told me that the value in the swag bag is more than what I paid to attend this thing, that's exciting. That's a hey, there's an investment right there that's going to pay off. So that's nice. But I'm more excited for the experience and to meet other people and wrangle some more guests for the show, truth be told. And sure. I'm definitely one of the first 350, because I might have been in the first 10 actually. So that's nice. Cool. That's kind of cool. So for anyone else out there who is thinking about attending or would consider attending, the website is up right now. I'm going to take that down right away. So write that down or commit it to memory in the next 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's gone. All right, let's keep on moving along. It's funny. There's some comments came in, Eric.
Okay, I just need to cap that off with, I think they're capping attendees at 500. So it's a limited space thing. So if you are one of those guys that would be available to go, you might want to register sooner rather than later.
Great advice. All right, guys. Back to the conversation about Nike bringing on, the Jordan brand, part of Nike, bringing on a couple hockey players. A couple great points were made why that might not make sense. Carlos says it makes it tough when hockey players aren't using a product that people can just wear on the street normally. Yeah, that's true. Amit says can't exactly merch skates like basketball, like they do with the shoes. Makes sense. Yeah. And then Legion says Austin Matthews brand fake mustaches. There's potential there for sure. David French says no one skates. 2% of Americans skate more than once a year. Now, I mean, that might be due for a fact check, but appreciate the information. And that is a challenge. I mean, if you think about it, game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals was tonight, and there are 2 Southern United States teams that are in the Stanley Cup Finals. So if that's not going to help drive the popularity of hockey, and even get a little bit more airtime on ESPN, I don't know what will.
Florida and Dallas, right?
Tampa Bay and Dallas.
And Dallas.
That's right. David French, you said you'd love to ask another grading question. The only thing I say that is that Eric does not work for Beckett Grading or Beckett Authentication. He's the social media manager and the host of Beckett Live Presents. Feel free to throw your question out there, though, David French, and we'll address it if we can, definitely. And thank you for joining, for sure. All right. I'm just scanning the comments here to see if there's anything else that we're going to address right now. Legion says they could make a skate with a pattern that was mimicked in a street shoe, or a street shoe of a pattern that was mimicked as a skate. I don't know how popular that would be, but that'd be pretty funny. Amit says Industry Summit would be a great host for the next Sports Cars Live show once people are able to fly safely. I see. Broadcast from the summit. Hey, great idea. I mean, we'll definitely check that out. So David French's question is, I'll put it up there, Eric. If it's something you can't answer, just say I don't know.
Sure.
But he says two people independently grade a card, right? And then a third person grades a card if the first 2 are different, or can you shed light on how that works? Do you know the grading?
No, I can't. I can't shed any light on that at all.
That's fine. That's fine. What I can say to you, David, is that in a past episode of Sports Cards Live, my guest was Jeremy Murray, who's the VP of grading for Beckett Grading Services. And we had an in-depth, at least 2-hour-long discussion about everything grading. So if you want to go back and check out that episode, we did address that question specifically. So definitely go check out that episode, David. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, Eric, we're going to start wrapping up the show, and we're going to start with, I want you to quickly, people always want to know what your favorite cards are. The first question of the Sports Cards Live 5 is, what is your favorite card in your personal collection? But before you do that, tell us what your favorite cards in the overall hobby are, because I know there's 3 of them. You mentioned it to me, and I'd love to hear them again.
So 87 Bo Jackson, Tops Bo Jackson. I love it. It's that ugly wood grain, but that's okay. That wood grain is sexy to me. I like it a lot. 80 Tops Ricky Henderson. I love that card. And then I told you this. I think that the Steve Yzerman rookie is completely undervalued, and I love it. It's awesome.
Cool, man. Bo Jackson, Ricky Henderson, and Steve Yzerman. A great cross section of players there. I love it. I just want to mention to David, you say watched it. Don't think he covered it. We did cover it. I specifically asked the whole process around grading. So I don't want to tell you to go watch the whole 2 hours again, but it was in there. We did talk about it. Here's a question, Eric. I don't think you're going to be able to answer, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. It's from Alex Eisenring. He says, how much percentage of revenue for Beckett is the magazines and the grading?
Well, it's 2 different. The way that it's set up, grading is almost a separate company than what the magazines are. In fact, it's 2 different verticals completely. So it's at one point it was like this. It's probably more like this now. And it's
grading's higher.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, Sports Cards Live 5. 5 questions. We'll follow it up with card of the day, and then we will wrap things up. Question number 1? Favorite card in your personal collection?
Sure. I have 2 actually. And they are the brothers, Randy and Jason Sklar. These are from 2016 Ginter. These are my favorite comedians. They are twin brothers. I have had them on my show several times, and I got to see them live last year, and they signed the cards for me, and I was ecstatic about it. I will these are like will forever live in my PC. I'll never get rid of them. Hockey connection to them. Part of their show is they yell Henderson, and they yell Henderson because of Paul Henderson's goal in the Canada. Was it the Canada Cup? And,
yeah.
So when I met them, I'm the only guy in the audience that met them that yelled Henderson, and they totally loved it, and they knew who I was from being on my show, and it was great. I loved it. It was a great time.
That's awesome. Paul Henderson, scored the winning goal in the 1972 Canada Cup. Question number 2, and this is Dave Archer. You had asked the same question. What is your biggest want in the hobby that is attainable? So, and I'm just for everybody else watching, we can always say to somebody, what's your dream card? And it's a 52 Topps Mickey Mantle or the Honus Wagner or a PSA 10 Michael Jordan rookie. But I want to know, what is the biggest want you have that is something that you feel is or will be attainable to you at some point in the future?
This might seem like a cheesy answer, but it's this card, and it's always been this card. It's a 1951 Topps ringside Rocky Marciano.
Right on.
I mean, I could buy a copy right now for $250, right? But I want a really nice copy. I don't want a junk copy, but it's that 51 Topps ringside Rocky Marciano.
And why Rocky Marciano?
I love, that's my little secret. That's my little thing about the hobby that not a lot of people know. I love boxing cards. I want all the boxing cards, and they're not they don't carry a whole lot of value, right? I just like the pugilist, and I want that card.
Awesome. Okay, cool, man. Great answer. Question number 3: what is your favorite place to buy cards?
Yeah, man. Other than the Beckett Marketplace, it's the Sports Card Expo.
Sports Card Expo.
Yeah, awesome. I love it there. And we were teasing each other about it, but I love that you can. It's 90% hockey. I would probably say 95% hockey. You started to see some smatterings of baseball and basketball recently. I think Steve Minzy does a great job putting that show on. And then, of course, there is the meat table, the sausage table in the middle of the Expo Center that smells delicious. They have free samples. Just don't go back too many times to get those samples. Can I tell you a story about that, actually, right quick?
Well, you can, but before you do, I just want to hold that thought. Though I just want to say to everybody watching, when you come to the Sports Card Expo in Toronto and you go by you go by this meat table full of pepperoni and sausage and salami and all that great stuff, you're free to buy it, but please don't eat 6 or 7 pepperoni sticks, consume them, and then go around table by table and let out your burps, because I tell you, it smells up the whole show. That's it. Please do us a favor. We have enough. We have enough. Personal hygiene issues at card shows already. So
don't go touching all the cards either after you eat the pepperoni sticks. Go wash your hands. The washroom is 35 feet in the opposite direction. Go wash your hands.
Wait till you get home to eat it. That's another option.
But the meat table, a couple of years ago, maybe it was a year and a half, Joe Montana was there. He was one of the featured guests. And I walked down that aisle, and Joe Montana was standing at the meat table buying samples or buying meat. And people are just standing like 15 or 20 feet away from him going, is that Joe Montana? Yes, that's Joe Montana. And he's buying Canadian meat. I don't know how he's going to get it back across the border, but that's what he's doing. It's
hilarious. Awesome. Joe Montana. His favorite booth at the Sports Card Expo is the meat table. All right. Next question. If you could change one thing in our hobby, what would you change?
This attitude that the base cards don't mean anything, and it's all about the hits. You know what? These are hits to me. They were base cards, and I got them signed. These were hits because I love these guys. That 87 Topps Bo Jackson is a hit to me because I love that card. It just because it doesn't have a big, nasty, sick patch on it doesn't mean it's not a hit. I
hear you, man. I hear you. Doesn't have to have an autograph. Doesn't have to have a piece of memorabilia. Sometimes I'd rather, you mentioned Synergy before as a product that you really like in hockey that could appeal to the basketball collector. I completely agree with it. And their base cards are actually major hits. They're numbered to depends on which year they're from, 18, 19, or 20. That's all. That's how many the true base cards have. And in the 1920 series, I believe it was, they added sticker autographs to some of these base cards, which completely turned me off them. I was collecting these base cards, picking them up here and there where I could, until they put the sticker autographs on them. Then it's like kind of just, I lost interest in them. So, there's an example of where, and I know I'm still talking about a very rarely inserted base card, but the autograph, which would otherwise be a hit, actually kind of ruined it for me.
Sure.
For myself. Final question. Your biggest hobby purchase or sale regret?
I have one for both.
Fair.
My biggest hobby sale regret is, this was like 2008 Donruss Classics football. Was I pulled a Doak Walker cut autograph. Now I understand that some of your audience might not know who Doak Walker is, but he is an absolute legend here in Texas. He went to SMU. That he's the reason the Doak Walker Award is called the Doak Walker Award. He was a great running back at SMU, and I sold that for about $300, I think it was, and I just wish I would have kept it because I pulled it myself. I didn't get it in a break or anything like that. It was something that I pack pulled myself, and I wish I would have kept that. Biggest regret investing into all day, every day, twice on Sunday, Logan Thomas. I bought Logan Thomas's cards like they were going out of like I just had to have them. They weren't existing anymore. I don't even know if that guy's in the NFL anymore. The last time he was the quarterback at Virginia Tech, he got drafted by the Cardinals, and the last I heard, he was a tight end for the Buffalo Bills.
All right, man. Thank you. That explains who he is, because I wasn't sure at first. So I appreciate it. Great answers. I'm gonna hit you with a bonus question now. I've never done this before. This is the bonus question, but it's only coming because it was asked by a great viewer. Cardboard Nostalgia Billy says, if you could open any sealed box from any era, what would it be?
Whew, that's a tough one. Well, the cheesy answer would be 51 Topps ringside, so I could try to pull that Marciano. The hobbyist, the pure hobbyist in me would say 52 Bowman, but I think 2011 Topps update would also be there. And I say that because we have on our Beckett website, on our Beckett YouTube channel, there is a video of Brian Fleischer, my fearless leader, Brian Fleischer, and Chris Olds opening a box of 2011 Topps update, and they literally went, "Oh, Mike Trout, there you go," and just put it down. And there's just there's just no semblance for how great that card ended up being. It's not.
Yeah. Hilarious. Buildership, welcome to the show, says 86 Fleer. That's what jumped in my mind at first.
That's so cliche, though.
But it's the easy answer too, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, we know that you're going to get at least 3 to 4 Jordans per box, right? And maybe 3 or 4 Jordan stickers. I get it. I get it. That guy that sold the case of it earlier this year, completely understand. And I would probably rip that open. But for me, I think there's other stuff, because it's 136. It was a 136 card set, 36 card set. So after a while, it's going to get pretty repetitive, right?
Yeah, 100 and something in there. Yeah,
it's either 136 or 160. It's something like that. Yeah, it's going to get repetitive, and I love the cards, and it's full of Hall of Famers, but I need something a little more various. You
know what you're going to get out of that box, but even still, opening up a pack and seeing that Michael Jordan rookie, that would be a pretty major thrill, right? Bobby Burrell says Meat Man at the Expo makes more money than most dealers do. I don't doubt it. Considering I smell it throughout the whole weekend, I don't doubt it. Legion says, I'm sure I'm not alone when I say basketball collectors are welcome to as much synergy as they want. I mean, that's hilarious. I'm in the minority, and you're right, Legion. There's a lot of people. It's a polarizing type of product.
Right.
I love it personally. I think it's got some gems in there. But I'll keep quiet on that because I don't want to let that cat out of the bag more than I already have. I could be wrong too. We will see. We will see. Dave Archer says Logan Thomas scored a TD as a tight end last week for the Washington football team.
There you go.
There you go. And 61 Fleer, there's one, right? That would be epic.
Yeah.
Epic. Like that's up there with 52 Tops baseball, like
Yeah.
51 Parkhurst hockey, right? 50,
Right.
57, 58 Tops football. Like, oh, we're talking about the best of the best there. All right, man. I'm gonna do my card of the day, and then we will wrap up. So I showed my first card of the day earlier. For those of you that arrived late, Eric is a veteran hobby content creator and one of the kind of pioneers of hobby podcasts with the Fat Packs podcast. And back a few years ago, I acquired this card from Eric directly. It has his autograph on it. This card it's PC, not for sale, not for trade. Please don't even ask me. It will not leave my collection. Proud to own it.
Very nice.
My card of the day, and I try and tie it in, and this is only the second time I've done it, so I try to tie it into my guest. And after our discussion last night, Eric told me, and he just told us what his 3 favorite cards are in the hobby. I happen to own one of them. I don't have the Bo Jackson. I no longer have a Rickey Henderson rookie. I used to, and I certainly want to reacquire one, and I likely will because I love that card. Quick story about the Rickey Henderson rookie, Eric. Right out of high school, I took a year off and I went to Australia with a buddy on the Students Working Abroad program. And we were there for 8 months. Coming back, I lived in Winnipeg at the time, which is like just north of North Dakota for anyone out there that doesn't know where Winnipeg is in Canada. And I was coming back from Australia. We stopped New Zealand, Fiji, Hawaii, and then Los Angeles. And I stayed in Los Angeles with a great uncle of mine. And I was jonesing for some cards. This is April of 1991. Okay, that's when this is. So I stayed with him for a couple of days in LA just to check out LA. And he took me to, I said, we got to find a card shop. So he took me to a card shop. And I don't know where it was or what it was called. Again, 1991. And the guy had a Rickey Henderson rookie on the shelf, and I purchased it from him. That was my first Rickey Henderson rookie it was like my first card that I bought coming back after taking 8 months off the hobby because I was outside of North America, and there were very few cards available in Australia. But I was able to find some Skybox basketball in Australia.
Yeah, huge basketball. Huge set.
The first set ever. I was buying packs of that at a comic store in Sydney, Australia back in 1991. Anyway, my card of the day today, guys, is the other one, the Steve Yzerman rookie from 1984 85 O-Pee-Chee. And this is a card that I love this card. Steve Yzerman is, like many hockey players, is underrated in the overall hobby. He's a true gentleman. He's a consummate Hall of Famer. He's been involved in hockey since he stopped playing. He was the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's now back in Detroit with the Red Wings, I believe, right? I'm not making that up, am I? No, that's
right.
That's right. Yeah. But this card itself, and Eric, you mentioned to me that you just love this card. And I remember being a kid and opening up packs of these, and that little picture, the headshot in the corner was so innovative. We saw it with 83 Tops baseball as well, the Ryan Sandberg, Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn year, but we had it in hockey, and such a nice card. And this card has shot up in value in the last few months, like basically 3 to 4x times its value of what it was, earlier this year. And I think deservedly so. It's nice to see it's keeping up. So this is a copy I've had for a while. It's got the new PSA label. Sorry, it's not a Beckett card, Eric. It's got the new PSA label, which adds a little bit of coolness to the holder. But the card itself, I want to point out to anyone who doesn't know, when you're buying a Steve Yzerman rookie, there's a couple things to look for. But the thing that I look for the most, aside from the basic centering, which can be an issue, the thing I look for the most is the registration. And if you don't know what registration means, it's the way the different printing plates were laid down onto the sheet to make sure that the image isn't blurry. And you can often find this card blurry. This particular example is not blurry at all. It's sharp as can be. And where I look, aside from just looking at the face and the image to find blurriness, I often look right in, if you guys can see, there's this red circle that kind of comes over his head, and then there's the pink circle, right? Mm-hmm. There are also black lines that outline those stripes, if you will. And if those black lines aren't tight against the pink and the red, and there's even a sliver of white in there, that's a registration issue. So when I look at an Yzerman rookie, the first thing I look for is to see if there's any white showing between the black that you can't even see on screen and those colors in there. And you can also see it You can also see it on the edge here, and and even sometimes up these stripes here as well. So little tip, if you're buying an Yzerman rookie, registration is an issue outside of the normal issues like edges, centering, corners. But to me, registration is a surface criteria or a surface issue, and that's what I look for on an Yzerman rookie. And I've said to many people before, if you're a hockey collector, and I don't ever want to tell somebody what they should buy, but you know, if you're a serious hockey card collector, you likely do, or you covet a Wayne Gretzky rookie. There are a handful of other cards that I think you should covet or own, and Steve Yzerman is in that group. So card of the day, Steve Yzerman rookie, the O-Pee-Chee version, card number 67 from 1984 O-Pee-Chee.
Very nice.
You like that card?
Love it. And I was one other one. Can I give him Joe Sakic too? Because that Joe Sakic rookie is. I didn't know that about the Topps. You were telling me the Topps is actually more rare than the O-Pee-Chee version, which is odd. But that Sakic is completely underrated too.
And you're right. It is odd. It catches a lot of people by surprise. The general rule in hockey cards is that the O-Pee-Chee set is more limited than the Topps set and therefore more valuable. And oftentimes people just ignore the Topps cards altogether. Mm-hmm. The only year that I can think of that reversed was in 1989-90, which is the Joe Sakic rookie year. It's also got the rookie cards of Brian Leetch and Theoren Fleury and Gary Roberts and a few others. And that year, Topps, it was more limited in production, mostly because O-Pee-Chee ran the presses for the vending cases, is my understanding, and the factory sealed sets. So that's the one time. Cardboard Nostalgia says that Steve Yzerman once had 165 points in a single season, the most by any player not named Gretzky or Lemieux. That is a great piece of trivia. Thanks for putting that up there, CN. Appreciate it. And really, if that doesn't tell you something about how good Steve Yzerman was as a player, I mean, everyone knows about Gretzky and Lemieux. Bobby Burrell jumps in and says, sadly, the instant winner card is worth more than the Yzerman from that set. I don't know in high grade anymore. Oh, unless you're talking about Topps, Bobby, on O-Pee-Chee. That's interesting. But the other thing is that I think we're moving this. Sorry, Eric, this is kind of a topic and we're going into overtime here, but I just want to mention one thing. In the 1923-24 Patterson set, there's the Honus Wagner of hockey cards is kind of this guy named Bert Corbeau, who you've never heard of him. You wouldn't have heard of him if he didn't have the rarest hockey card from the vintage era. But the thing is that nobody really cares about that card anymore. The only people that care about that card are people that want the complete set. Otherwise, the only people that care about that card are people that want it for its rarity. But if you collect, I shouldn't say nobody, I'll take that back. But if you collect Hall of Famers, or you collect impactful players and their rookie cards from the course of history of the sport, Bert Corbeau doesn't land on either of those lists. He's a common, but he's a very rare card. So my point is that with the instant winner card that Bobby's mentioning from the 84 O-Pee-Chee set, it's like, who really cares though if it's worth more? Who actually still wants that card besides the real traditional collector who kind of wants that master set of everything that came out of those wax boxes? I consider myself a pretty complete collector, and I have zero interest in that card. That said, I do have a copy of it, but the only reason I have a copy of it is because the stick of gum was still stuck to it when I opened a pack one time, and I kept it just to show gum still stuck to a card. That's why I have it. So appreciate the comment, Bobby. Worth more. I think if that is the case, that's going to change, because I just don't think people care about it anymore. Similar to the Bert Corbeau card, I don't think people really care about it. I know I don't, and I'm pretty hardcore rookie card collector from all eras. Anyway, Eric, sorry for that long soliloquy there at the end.
No worries.
Give you a chance for any parting words, guys. We're going to wrap this up. So appreciate everybody watching. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, please do. You can find Eric on his YouTube show, Beckett Live Presents. You can find him on Twitter at Eric Norton 316. That's on the ticker right now at the bottom of your screen. So check those out. Again, we have shows coming up every Wednesday and Saturday. We're booked now for the next 6 weeks or so. So there's going to be no lag on guests. It's going to be awesome. Eric, it's been a pleasure having you. You're a great guest, man. You're a great host of your own show, but you're a great guest too.
Thank you, sir. I just want to correct myself. I said Lynn Dawson was a kicker. Lynn Dawson was a quarterback. I meant Jan Stenerud. That's who I was thinking of. I realized, I was like, wait a minute. Dawson was a quarterback, and a fairly decent one. Jan Stenerud was the kicker.
There you go, man. There he is. This is the man who will fact check himself during the show. I love it.
I had to. I was like, I got it wrong. I got to make it right.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, Eric, again, awesome having you. Thanks so much. Proud to have you as my guest for episode 47 of Sports Cards Live. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll roll through the parting comments as they come in, and then I'm going to hit end broadcast. I will be coming live again with Amit Acharya in about 25 minutes. Same channel, different broadcast. Please join us. It'll be a nice, relaxing episode. Amish Dave, thank you very much for joining us. Guys, check out Amish Dave's channel. It's one that I watch, and he does a great job on it. So thank you for joining. Building, great to have you as always. Insightful as always. Thanks. Thank you. Carlos, thank you for joining. Guys, check out Carlos's YouTube channel because I'm Carlos, one of my favorites. David French, I will keep him coming, my man. Thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Eric, great to have you tonight. Thank you so much. Charles, as always, great to have you guys. Charles was my guest on After Hours, the second ever episode of After Hours about 3 weeks ago. So check that out. He's a youngster in the hobby, a great young ambassador for our hobby as well. Charles, great to see you this evening. Thanks for stopping by. My good friend Al G, local here. Al, thank you for joining. As always, Legion, great to see you. Terry, another long-term hobby friend. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Megan Norton.
Hey, my wife's watching.
Megan Norton.
That's my wife. What are you
Happy to have you watching. Your husband did a great job. You didn't even know she was watching, did you?
I didn't know that. Why are you still awake, babe?
Thank you for tuning in, Megan. Great to have you. And Jeff McMahon, thank you so much. Really appreciate the comment. Great to have you tonight. Everybody else, we'll see you all in about 24 minutes on the next broadcast of Sports Cards Live After Hours. Everybody, I'm so proud of him. Well, you should be. He's a great guy and a great hobby representative and a great person in the hobby. So thank you so much for that.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, we'll see you soon. Good night.
Good night.